Let me share my screen. Okay. Yeah. So initially we discussed, right, why we have to perform testing. Because if we didn't do the perform testing of application and if we deploy in a production environment, and initially it will be good. So once it has a base number of users, assume that whether application is growing with like peak load and there were no competition, lot of load people are coming, right? Then it will be down due to the non-availability of resources. Non-availability of resources, nothing but the application is not bearable the load. That's why we have to do a product perform testing before deploying and on to the production. See, if you have deploying the environment application in a very good environment with big resources, it may sustain average load also. Only when you are getting we will get the issues only in the time of peak load. Okay. So this example is represents, right? If you don't know, see here in the picture, the truck doesn't know the capacity of the stones. Simply kept it, but once it starts, it got breakdown. Right. So in our IT industry, this performance is very important whenever you're expecting a higher load, a lot of load from the different parts of the world to your application. Okay. So we have two things. One is the performance testing and another is performance engineering. So guys know what is the difference between testing and engineering?
No.
Hmm.
No, I don't.
Yeah. Suresh?
Hello?
Yeah. Do you have any idea on the difference between performance testing and performance engineering?
No, bro. No.
Yeah. So see, performance testing is nothing but where you will run the test, you will give the results to the developer. From the results, what you will tell, you will tell that okay, this response time is not good. There is errors like that. But if developer asks how to resolve that error, how to get the better performance, that's where performance engineering will come. So performance engineering nothing but you will do all the test execution. Now you will be analyzing on the root cause of it. So that's called performance engineering. Performance engineering is completely different concept, different tools it has where you will be analyzing the server logs, server tools to know how we can get the better performance. Suppose I'm getting a 10 seconds, right? So if my client asks, I want to get 5 seconds. So as a tester, you may not do it. You got in the test as a tester, what you'll do, you'll tell that okay, I got 10 seconds for this number of runners, this number of scenarios. So to increase it better, that's where to know the root causes properly, if there are getting error, that's where performance engineering will come. Generally, developers will help us to get that issue, but if you learn the performance engineering, you can also do that. So in our market, right, these complete two are different: performance testing and engineering. Okay, testing nothing but you just take any load testing tool, write a script, run the test, share the results. Whereas engineering is once you're done with the sharing the results, you have to analyze. Okay, why I'm getting this much of time, why I'm getting this much of errors, where the traffic is going on, where the issues could be. How can we get a better performance? Those things will come in performance engineering. Okay. So in a manual testing or automation testing, right? So we'll write our test cases. Correct. In our test cases, if one of the things, one of the test cases got failed, then we'll say right, it's a bug. We'll call it as a bug. Correct. Same as in performance testing or engineering, if you didn't get your expected output or expected response time, then we call bottleneck. The performance testing related terms that we call bottleneck. Bottleneck is nothing but the bug. How the bottleneck would be? Bottleneck would be like it will stop the flow, right? If you take a water bottle, how the neck is there? If compared to whole bottle, the neck is small. So that's where in our performance testing, it clearly represents it blocking our memory, blocking our the resources. That we call bottleneck. So whenever you say bottleneck in the application means it is a performance related issue. Okay. Same as like we have different metrics to analyze it. So in other parallel pattern testing, right? How will give a green signal? One is say there is no P1 bugs or no P2 bugs, right? Or no like high priority, low priority bugs, right? Based on that, you will be giving a green signal to go to next product, next environment. Same in the performance testing, you will be depending on these metrics, which again disk, the memory, pages, bytes, queue, like lot of things, parameters. Based on a scenario to scenario, project to project, we will be depending on okay, well, which monitor, which uh, uh, which metrics we have to depend. You will keep on monitoring some metrics. Whenever these metrics are touching the other values, then we'll simply say that okay, uh, mm, yeah, we can't go for next like that. So we have to depend on all these metrics. This is completely depend on the application or our server to server, right? So now let's say what are the things we'll consider in performance testing. The first thing is the speed. Speed is nothing but even though you have written a script, okay, and you want to test how your application is behaving. So first thing is you have to check the speed. How much time it is taking to respond. The more speed is taking the time, I mean, the more time is take less time. The less time is taking, then it's a good application. When you're responding is so, I mean, it's taking so much of time, then you consider that is a not an expected one. The first thing is how to check the speed. Whenever your page is not responding properly, whenever the page is lagging, I'm sure one of the results are not properly working. That's called one of the our performance testing issue. We have to check the speed. Second is throughput. Throughput we already discussed, right? What is throughput? What is throughput?
The time taking for the completing the same task in the various servers.
Okay, okay, okay. Suresh?
Same answer.
Yeah. So throughput is nothing but how much time a server is taking to take the capacity. In simple terms, number of transactions limited. So we have to check that one also. Even though it is a performing well means we can't say that okay it's good. We have to check the throughput. Same thing. Next is reliability. So reliability nothing but even though it is giving a speed response time, whether it's really giving a proper response or not. So we have to check the response tab and we have to check whether we're getting the response or not. Because sometimes if developer is not properly written the code of errors, even if it's giving error, we'll get a 200 response code. In the content, it could be errors, but the response code is a 200. So that should also not happen. Okay, that's called reliability. So we should get speed way in a faster way, but we should get an actual response, not some dummy response or errors like that. Next is scalability is nothing but whenever the application is like the user set are increasing, it should be able to. So I mean, you should get the response time metrics all according to the load. So if I'm doing it 10 seconds, sorry, 10 users load, right? I got some metrics. If I'm doing 100, my response times, everything they should match and along with 10 users. Okay, that's called scalability. So these are the basic abilities we have to check on the performance testing, right? Now let's see what are the type of performance testing. So performance is nothing but not like okay, we'll do write a script and we'll run it. It's not that way. It's a very complicated and we should know proper things because we'll be spending a lot of efforts and time. So if you can't able to get proper requirement and if you do like as you wish without concern, without requirement, without any discussion, and at the end of the result when you submit result, they will say this is not expected. So it's not like mandatory automation, right? You just try to test case and execute and give the report. We'll be repeating the same test 3 or 4 times. We'll be observing a lot of things. We'll be blocking the environments. So we should be very careful while starting the testing itself. So we should get a requirement from the client saying that what exactly he need. If the client doesn't know any performance testing or any, I mean, he's like new to the thing, he may have having a business idea but not related to this. So we have to sit and explain these are the testing available. So which testing suits your requirement? Yeah, which it suits which we have to ask him. Okay, which test type of testing suits his requirement? Right. So the first thing is load testing. Load testing is nothing but here we will be concentrating on response time. We will be doing a limited number of users and we'll check how a response time behaves. Suppose our target load is like 1 lakh users. So what we'll do, right? We'll slowly start with 1,000, 290,000, 30,000, and with a different combination of scripts, different combination of APIs, and we'll check how response time is behaving. So our only concern is response time. That's we call load testing. So whenever any client comes or application comes, so I want to check how much faster it is. So we won't be concentrating on any other type of thing. We'll design our scripts or we'll write our scripts such a way that we should see only how much response time is varying. That's a simple load test. Simple load test. Next is test testing. Test testing is nothing but to find out the break point of the application. It's like we don't having any target audience, we don't have any limited audience. We'll be keep on hitting the application till it breaks. Let's take an example of Amazon, right? So in an ideal day, Amazon can expect what could be the user load in a day. Correct. But when going on offer season or at the time of salaries, right? At the time of holidays, you can't expect the load. The load could be higher than expected because people are in festive mode or holiday mode, no, they will try to buy the things and like kind of those things, the parameter value. At the time, if you don't know the higher limit, how will maintain the resources? So let's say I have a deployed server with support to 1 lakh users, but suddenly the load is a 1.5 lakh. Right. So what will happen when the load increases than expected? So application will start failing and then they will getting a blank screen. So in the real time, they can't handle those things, right? In real time, they can't stop or deploy. I mean, they'll do that, but it will be just and they're blocking the business. That's where we'll do stress testing. So stress testing, nothing but we'll be figuring out what is the maximum load that application is bearing. So we'll be ready with okay, whenever the load is touching 90,000, right? So we'll be ready with the deploy with the backend servers, or we'll scale the server so that it will handle more. That's called stress testing. Okay. So next is endurance testing. Endurance testing is nothing but it depends on the memory. Suppose generally, right? If you take any website, how much will generally spend? They spend 5 to 10 minutes, right? If it's a browsing, or if like Facebook, Instagram, spend more time on that. Correct? If it's YouTube, we'll be spending hours. Right. So if you take an internal banking applications, right? If it is international bank, the banking application will run by 24/7. So whenever ever user visit time is more than it, right? Whenever people are accessing in hours, so if you test in a 5 minutes or 10 minutes, and you can't say that okay, this is good, this is no bad. So whenever in the real time, when our application is taking a long hours, so you have to test on the memory. How memory is able to killing or how memory is recreating or is properly there or not. Because once for 5 minutes or 10 minutes of write, memory won't impact it. Memory nothing but RAM. I mean, where application deployed, right? On the server, that RAM. Because objects will be created and will destroyed immediately so that memory will be readjusted. But when you're running a long time, no, the memory will be blocked. If other people are coming to access, there could be no memory. So that's where inner testing will come. Inner testing nothing but we'll be running our testing like 8 hours, 10 hours, and we'll be concentrating on the how memory is recreating or there or how the memory is performing. That's called endurance testing. Right? Now, other one is a volume or capacity testing. This is where it comes under DB testing or files. So if you take Naukri.com, right? Naukri, you will be uploading, everyone is uploading resumes. So that could have application like if you want to test how much in documents get uploaded, how much size it is accepting. Those things will come under volume or capacity testing. Nothing but only databases or the files on our deal with and we call volume or capacity testing. So scalable testing is nothing but same as the load testing where we'll be correlating the response time and throughput. So we have one graph, we have one pattern, so we'll be checking that. So clear, right? Types of perform testing. Suresh, Ramakrishnan.
Yes, bro, clear.
Yeah. Right. So you have to be very clear with the requirement because this will be like we'll be creating a 5 or 10 times of scripts and we'll be running 3 or 4 times to get average. Because in the perform testing, right, you can't get everything single shot. So sometimes the network is low. or sometimes there are resources using other company, other projects like that. So it will take a long time to run our test to get the reports to analyze. So it should be very clear when we're starting only. So if client doesn't idea, we have to explain, okay, what we have available, what we'll do. Or if client says, I have this business scenario where they're getting some issues, then we have to see, we have to map, okay, which testing suits it. Okay. So now perform testing to check what are the sites available. If you take any application, right, we're having these 4 sites. So we have to keep an eye on all the 4 sites. The first is the client side. Client side nothing but on the browser we're accessing the application, right? So how it behaves, how the data is loading, how emails are coming, right? How the forms are loading. That's what we called depend on the load time. That's called client side performance. Okay, now important is server side, which we'll be doing with JMeter. So we'll be doing with JMeter on server side performance, how server is behaving, how success rate, throughput, everything will come under server side performance. Sorry. Right? Next thing is network or hardware. So the server will be deployed some mission, right? Some hardware setup. So that's we have to check how this memory, CPU, IO, latency, bandwidth is behaving. And apart from these 3, if the application integrated any third party, then we have to check with third party also. Generally, the third party application performance will be doing by the company itself, right? But if we are using it, we should also have an idea on that because it may blocking our whole service. So whenever start the testing, right, we should have these 4 sides: client side, server side, the hardware, and the if we have integrated any third party services, we have to check with third party services. Okay. So we have like different metrics there. Once we started, when you go to the like kind of performance engineering, you'll be using most of these metrics in the server side and client side. Now let's say common fixes. So what is the common fixes? Common fixes are nothing but normally we'll try to implement these things. We can expect little bit better performance. And let's say your application uses 7 seconds. To implement any of these things, we expect 5 or 6 seconds. Not much, but it could be impact when you're doing a load test, right? So first thing is algorithms. Application design. Let's say you have 10 pages, no? In the 10 pages, if user want to go 10th page, if you navigated through user page, 1 page, 2 page, 3 page, 4, no, that's not good way. User should go navigate to any page from any page. It's not like, okay, it's 10 page, you have to go first, second, then third, then fourth. We can go to 1 to 10 or to 2 to 10 or 9 to 10. So application should be designed like that. Users should feel very faster and the design should be like that. They should use less resources. For even making one call, if you're touching a 9 page or if you're touching a 9 endpoint, no, that's not a good design the performances. Because we are creating a load unnecessarily on other pages or other APIs. Understood, right? The application design. That's where algorithms comes. Suppose you guys have idea on the for loop and if condition. Basic. What for condition will do? What is the if condition? For loop.
Yes, bro. I know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have an idea a little bit only.
Yeah. So what is nothing but if condition nothing but we will have some conditions written, right? So we have some conditions and we'll check. You can write if loops, and sometimes we can use for loop also to better speed. So if the developer is very new and he is not able to do much, now he will write a code in a very basic way. It is not optimized. Right? If a senior developer written the code, now he can write in a better way, optimized way. So these things will impact the performance. Suppose I can write 10 lines of code and senior developer can write 5 lines of code. Both the things will do their job only. But if you take a affecting of the performance, the 5 lines code is better. That's where optimization will come. Okay, so while designing algorithms, we should be very careful when we are talking in terms of performance. Same as caching. Caching is nothing but whenever you do any application, so the server will store, okay, whenever these are frequent items, so it will send through cache. So that cache should be implemented. developers are no one is implementing cache, right? Everything will be dependent on the server each and every time, even the frequent calls or frequent things. So that will also take the resources. It's always have to use cache and DB calls. So if you are application into your database, how much calls they are making for a small job and for small things, like there for every small thing, if they're calling DB call now, that's again button on the network and the DB. So the DB call should be implemented or should be used in such a way it should call only one time, not for every time for every query. Okay, so these are the basic application design fixes to get a better performance. Same as like upgrading hardware. Upgrading hardware is the expensive, right? We can't simply upgrade it because we could not be allocated a budget like that. The RAM, CPU, obviously will get a better performances when you upgrade it. So, but we have to suggest, even though you do all the fixes, all the engineering, it still is not giving good time, then we will upgrade it. Same as like upgrading software architecture. Like if the application deployed in Windows and same if application deployed in X, Linux to be bit better response time than Windows because of other process like that. Same as like servers, different type of servers, different type of databases. So if you use Oracle, right? Oracle database means that by default they will have an optimized state. Suppose if you want to use MySQL or PostgreSQL or any other databases, they could not be much optimized on Oracle. So like that and upgrading your smart picture. So like these things. So these are general fixes to get a better performances. Understood, right? So we should be keeping in the mind when our discussing client, we should ask all these questions so that we'll know how application is running, how application is designed. Okay. So when we'll do the perform testing. So when we'll do functional testing, when the functional testing is once the build is deployed, we'll do immediately functional testing. Correct. So when we'll do automation testing, whenever automation test code is ready, we'll run the automation testing. But perform testing, we can't do whenever possible. We can't do perform testing when build is immediately deployed. So we should wait for functional testing or UAT testing such that we should not have any functional bugs. Right? We should not have any functional bugs because if the application has functional bugs, right, and if we're doing the load testing, that bug causes more errors than the application itself. Right? So that's a very important prerequisite. So whatever the testing the modules or testing the pages, there should not be any functional bugs. Then only should start perform testing. Otherwise, all your testing will be wasted out due to that bugs. Okay. Right. Yeah. So how we will decide? How will know whether you're getting better response times or not? So we'll have a baseline and benchmark. So baseline is nothing but generally if we are working in the e-commerce application. So in the e-commerce we have Amazon, we have Flipkart in India, and in the international we have a lot of other things, right? So we'll be having very baseline if compared to all e-commerce websites. Suppose I'm doing a banking application. So we'll be having a baseline for all the banking applications. So we'll know, okay, this is the baseline of any banking application should be there, like 2 seconds or 3 seconds. So same thing we learn for our process. Assume that we don't know any other things in the market standards, then we'll get to the baseline based on different type of runs with different type of scenarios. Okay, same as a benchmark. So benchmark nothing but once we agree with the SLA, service level agreement. The service level agreement nothing but once we discuss with the client, says that this is what we expected, this should not go beyond that. That we call it a benchmark or SLA test. So based on this, we'll get to know our application is in a good behavior or not. Okay. So these are the different tools in the market as we discussed. These are like little old slide. So now we have to go with the JMeter. Okay. So clear, right? Till now, the basic concepts of perform testing. Any doubts?
Okay.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah. So let's go now. We'll complete discussion on JMeter. We're done with the theory, right? So now before going to the better, let's understand how the APIs are used. So let's take, I open Amazon here. Okay. So if I see these images means they are all coming from the APIs, correct? So if I open the network tab here, right click, the network tab. Okay. You guys have any network tab? Have used it earlier? Suresh,
No, bro, no.
Ramakrishna?
No,
Actually,
previously we have
actually, I
verified for some
am
project
using
only.
apps.
Sorry?
I am from apps testing currently. I'm not in the websites actually.
Apps.
Yes, yes,
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah. So this is the network tab where whatever you do on the UI, right? They will be talking. Suppose let's say click on this thing. To see the APIs we will load in the backend. Observe here. This is all the APIs. Let's just click on something here. I will show you. This is one of the APIs. So what happens when the application is designed such a way that it depends on the APIs. It will gather all the API responses and they will display like here. Same as mobile app also, same as like mobile app also in the back end, the APIs will run. So without this
correct.
APIs, yeah, without this APIs, we can't have the UI. So we
Yes,
have
yes,
to first figure out what are the APIs they're using because we'll be doing a load test on the APIs only.
correct.
Right? Yes,
I
one
know
of
that
the
one. Yes,
yeah, one of the APIs is not working properly, then some of the page is not working here.
correct.
So yeah, so this is the UI and this is the APIs.
Just we
Okay.
need to list out how many APIs are there in the page and
Yes,
correct, right?
then yeah, then we'll be doing the
Mm,
load test. So we should having the APIs because if I just click on any API, let's say if any API, I should know what is the URL part, what is the method, what is the response code, what is the payload, what is the headers. Don't worry, we'll be discussing this in complete API testing. Then we'll get to the once we actually APIs, then only we'll go to the load test. Because if you don't have proper knowledge of APIs, right, it is very difficult to debug or very difficult to understand the issues. Okay, so I'm just stopping the recording now.